Hello listeners, it's Tim here with another Super League Pod short. This time I caught up with Dave Musson from the Bare Necessities podcast, who's written a book chronicling the Coventry Bears 20th Anniversary season in 2018. Without further ado, let's get going.
Hello and welcome to this Super League Pod short, where we're talking about something very special and with a special guest. So I'd like to introduce Dave Musson. Dave, welcome to the programme.
Thank you very much for having me, Tim.
No problem. So you're here to talk about Forward, which is your book that you're in the process of finishing writing at the moment and coming out shortly in a month or so's time. And just give us the background as to what the book's about and how you came to write it.
So the book, it tells the story of the Coventry Bears 20th Anniversary season, which was last year, 2018. And really it was something right at the start of the season when we played Leeds Rhinos in pre-season friendly and broke club record attendance, and it was just a really fantastic day. It really just felt like there was going to be a whole load of stories to tell during 2018. Yeah. And I just thought I'd really like to be the person to tell that story. So I started writing it at that point and just carried on through the season. And by the time I got to April, May, I'd sort of invested so much time in it that I thought, well, it'd be silly not to see it through now. So the book itself is part season diary, so going game by game, a sort of fan's account of each match that the Bears played in 2018. And there's plenty of stories there. The one that really stands out was going from being beaten 98-6 away at Keighley to then turning them over in Coventry just 76 days later with 10 first-team players missing as well. But, there was other things, a string of 4 consecutive victories, best ever win at this level for the Bears, a Challenge Cup run that they're doing better than they've ever done before. So the season diary thing was quite fun to write from that point of view. But I've tried to break up that as well and let people get to know the different characters involved at the Bears as well. So there's interviews with people like the club president, the matchday reporter, James Gertens, who was one of our stalwart players who went back to Australia at the end of last season. Just trying to give us a sort of sneak behind the scenes really at what goes on at this club and who makes it up. So that's it really, a nice mixture between season diary and player and staff interviews really.
Yeah, and it is definitely a club with a very special atmosphere. I sort of know myself from being on the PA and joining at that Leeds game, that being my first game. So for me it would be quite special that have that memento and have that reflection from the time I've been at the club. But it's something very different about this club compared to a lot of other clubs, even at this level and even compared to other expansion clubs.
Definitely, and there's so much heart at this club, and everything is done with so much thought, so much planning, and everything at this club is done with a very level head. So they don't operate on the biggest budget, but they make every single penny count. And one of the defining factors of the 2018 season was a real rethinking of the philosophy around player recruitment. So actually the squad we had in 2018 was probably the youngest in the league, and it was predominantly Midlands based as well, so giving a real Midlands identity to the Midlands only club. And that was really powerful, and one of the things I hope the book gets across is how that team progresses over the course of the season. So the first half of the season was pretty tough for the Bears. I think we went on a 14-game losing streak, and the points against column was not looking healthy at sometimes, but the team stuck to it, and they did improve and they did learn from things. And you can see in the second half of the book when things start to click and the results start to come, that the sort of the lift that it gave the club, and they really caught the attention of everyone in the media. And I'm very fortunate to have BBC Sports' Dave Woods has contributed a forward to the book as well, and he was really taken by the club when he came down for the Bradford game in the summer when we broke our attendance record yet again. He even did an entire podcast about the Bears, saying they were the blueprint for the future. So there's definitely something special going on at this club, and last year was a special year because of it being its birthday. And the players were able to deliver by notching some big wins and having a very successful season overall. So, it was just prime to be turned into a book, really. And
just a little about yourself. So, obviously, as you can tell, just like myself, you're not got a typical Heartland rugby league accent.
No.
And just tell us how you came to rugby league, and then specifically how you got into the Bears.
So, you're right on the accent. I was educated in Coventry, grew up just outside Coventry, so the Bears are my local team. In terms of getting to rugby league, I played rugby union at school, and I played union for the first couple of years at university as well, and then I did French at university. So my third year I was in Perpignan, home of the Dragons, of course, and I joined the university team there. And because there's nowhere near as much funding in French university sport, we did both codes. So we'd do League one week and Union the next. And the previous season, I was a winger. I mean, your listeners won't be able to see, but I'm not built to play rugby, as you can probably testify.
Not quite my build, put it that way, for people that know me.
So I was stuck out on the wing, and the year before in Union, I touched the ball 3 times all season. And I'd never played league, and I was learning it in a different language, and I got the ball 5 times in a match. I thought, hang on, I like this. And then when the Super League season started midway through my year there, I had the bizarre experience of waking up one Saturday morning and being surrounded by a load of blokes from Wigan and having forgot that Super League was happening. That was most confusing. But I just fell in love with League from that point and sort of followed the Dragons quite closely for a few years after that. And my wife and I, after university, we lived in Birmingham for a few years. And then when we moved back to Warwickshire, so we live just outside Coventry now, the Bears just seemed a natural fit to go and spend my Sunday afternoons. So I remember coming to the first game at League One against Oxford in 2015 on a very, very wet Good Friday.
Extremely wet. I was at that game, and biblical monsoon proportions. I had a wet jacket because I was out on the touchline, and it was actually soaked through, and to the point where 3 layers underneath were still completely soaked.
That doesn't surprise me at all. It was a horrendous day. And I remember going to the Rico game against Keighley. And then it was 2017 when I started going more regularly. And that's when I had the idea to start the podcast as well. So I don't know if that was next on your list of questions, but I do co-host
Funnily enough, it's like you're reading what I've written. Yes, you obviously do the podcast with Craig and Bare Necessities, and you've been doing that for 2.5 seasons now.
That's it, yeah. So midway through the 2017 season, I was doing other podcasts anyway, and I wanted to do more to help tell the Bears story and get their profile up. So I pitched the idea of the podcast to the CEO, Alan Robinson, here, and he was well up for it. So reached out to Craig on Twitter with his sort of viewpoint as a former player and a Bears fan as well, and we just went for it from there and made it up as we went along, really. And it's been quite a ride since then, but we've had a lot of fun.
That's something that definitely comes across, is that the fact, the genuine passion and enthusiasm we both have for the game and for the story, and you're not afraid to say when things have been poor, or you're not afraid to say that. It's not a propaganda piece by any means, but it's something that you can sense the love is there, and that's what it comes from.
Exactly. I mean, when it comes down to it, we're 2 Bears season ticket holders talking about the team. We are an independent show. We're very lucky that the club supports us wholeheartedly and basically says yes to any requests we have. So we do get to travel with the team quite a lot, and we get a lot of the gossip behind the scenes, and we're involved. We've been volunteers on the marketing side for the last 1.5 years, but you're right, when it comes down to it, we are fans. So if things need criticising, or if there are bad things that need raising, then we're not shy to do that. But we tend to try and be as positive as the club is in general, really, and see the bigger picture and really focus on the good things. And we don't want to put people up. There's enough people in rugby league moan about everything anyway. When you look at it from a holistic point of view, what is there to moan about when you're a Coventry Bears fan? It's been pretty good the last few years, and where we're going, it looks like it's only going to get better as well.
Exactly. And I never really understand people who come along to a game just to moan. It's like, you've got a beer in your hand, you're watching sport for a relatively low price, you don't have to be here, but come and enjoy it. So it's something that I don't really understand, but also something that is much better is the charitable aspects of the game in general, and that's something you're obviously looking to support through the book. So you are supporting Rugby League Cares, with the half the profits of the thing. So tell us a little bit about them and the work they do, and why you chose them.
Rugby League Cares, they're just one of those charities that, as soon as you spend a bit of time around the game, you can't help but come across their name and the work that they do. And I've just had a huge amount of respect and admiration for them. I guess my first encountering with them was in the horrific circumstances following Danny Jones's death. But just reading about them, that they just, I like I say, I really admire the work they do, and I guess I wanted also there to be this charitable aspect to maybe turn a few more heads from sort of other areas in the game who perhaps might look at a book about the Bears and think, is there going to be much interest in that for me? Whereas if they can get behind a cause that the game sort of unanimously supports, then I wanted to offer that as an angle as well. So yeah, half the profits are going to Rugby League Cares, the other half are going to the Bears, because I just wanted to put something back into the club as a thank you for letting me get so close to them for the last couple of years.
Yeah, and that's something unique about Rugby League, I think, is how close as an ordinary fan you can get to the players, the squad, the coaching staff, the people behind the scenes. And there's no pomposity, there's no, you're not allowed to be here. It's very much, come in, get on, get stuck in, do what you like. Yeah,
last home game of the Bears, we beat Workington and the players were just down on the touchline high-fiving anyone who was there, and it was that's very normal for a game at this level. You really do get to know the players and you get to build up a relationship with them over the course of the season.
Yeah, it's stark contrast because I was previously involved in non-league football, and that couldn't have been more different in that there was the Blazer club of everybody who was involved, and then the players were even at national conference level shielded away from anyone and wouldn't talk to anyone, and even as a member of club staff you must have, I think, recognised about 3 players in the whole time over the 3.5 years I was there.
Yeah.
Whereas here, and rugby league in general, but particularly here at the Bears, it's just so completely different.
Yeah, you get to know the players, you get to know the players' family. I mean, last season when Peter Ryan put that hit in on Phil Fooey and we were lauding it on the podcast, it ended up with a bizarre situation where Peter Ryan's mum was tweeting us saying, stop encouraging him to hit big people. But, that's it. It's a family atmosphere here, and it's one of the best things about being involved with the Bears.
So thanks very much for your time this afternoon. One final thing, how do people get hold of the book?
So people can get hold of the book by going to covbearspodcast.com/book. It is an online pre-order campaign. One of the things I should mention, so I'm self-publishing the book, hence the pre-order campaign. I didn't want to end it with a load of boxes of unsold books just because I'm having to sort of stick a finger in the air and work out how many to buy. So the pre-order campaign will be available until the 22nd of July, and then the hard copies should be ready and waiting. So any Bears fans can pick them up from Bears matches. Hopefully the first one will be the Keighley game in August, but anyone listening who isn't within easy reach of the Bears, you can obviously pay a little bit extra and I will post it to you. But yeah, go online, check it out, covbearspodcast.com/book. You can pay by credit card, you can pay by PayPal, and please do support it.
Brilliant. Well, I've definitely got my copy on order, so I'm looking forward to reading that in a few weeks' time. And I suppose just looking at this season, we've already got some stories from this season that could go into the next volume.
I know. If I hadn't become a dad a few weeks ago, I probably would have been writing a book about this year, but probably not one for me to write this year, I don't think.
There you go. Dave, thanks very much, and all the best.
Thank you. Thanks.
And there we are then. Thank you very much for listening to this SLP short. If you want to know more about the Bear Necessities or Forward, then check out @Cov Bears Podcast on Twitter. And don't forget to help us spread the word by liking and sharing this and any other episodes of Super League Pod. Goodbye for now, and I'll speak to you again soon.